God, I have 2 Milani eyeshadow primer. I didn't even know that. Hi Mom, and welcome back to this video. So as we know, I have been the queen of doing whatever I feel like on this YouTube channel. We've talked about mental health, we've reviewed Squishmallows, we've done a lot of makeup content, we've talked about whatever we felt like talking about on this channel. And I'm filming this makeup video at night, so the lighting is a little askew. I only have 1 ring light, so you can see it, but it's not the most quality lighting ever. I look sweaty, so that's nice. Today I read my 50th book of the year, and my goal was to read 50 books. Originally it was 30 books, like around 2.5 books per month. Is that math? Hashtag bad math. Quarantine happened and I sped read like 21 books during quarantine. Now we're here. I've read 50 books, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on my makeup to stay true kind of to the makeup channel style that we've got going here, and then I'm going to talk about all 50 books that I read. So a little warning, there's going to be a lot of books in here. If you don't like people who read romance novels, then click off this video, honey, because I be reading romance novels all year long. That's what I be reading. Also, if you don't want any spoilers, I'm going to try and keep this pretty like spoiler free. I'm not gonna like say the ending of any of the books, but I'm not gonna guarantee that there's not gonna be any spoilers for any of these books because I might slip up. I don't know. Oh, I almost forgot to mention one of the most important parts of this video. I am going to frame my look after one of my favorite books of the year. Spoiler alert for the video. And that is the From Blood and Ash series by Jennifer L. Armentrout. She's come out with 2 books already, I think both this year, and that is very impressive. I'm going to be theming my look after the cover of the first one, which is like red and gray and black, I believe. So I'm going to do something red today. So I have my Goodreads pulled up on my computer that's sitting next to me, and I have it scrolled down to the first books that I have read in 2020 starting in January. I'm going to go from the first books I read in the year to the most recent books that I've read. First, I'm seeing Over the Top by Jonathan Van Ness. This is it's autobiography when you write about yourself, right? This is his autobiography? I think so. He wrote it himself. This book was really good. I really like JVN from Queer Eye. He is a lovely person and he's so fun, and I just really wanted to get to know more about him. So I read his book and I gave it 5 stars because I really enjoyed it. I think it's the type of book to be read on audiobook because you can hear him read it, and you need to kind of hear his tone and his like JVN isms. If you know who JVN is, he's very flamboyant and very fun, he's over the top like the book says. So I think it wouldn't be as good just to read it. I think it would be better to listen to him, which is what I did. That was very fun for me. I'm gonna put on some eye primer. I'm gonna do eyes first today since we're doing red, and I have a feeling that if it falls out, I'm gonna look like I have a bruise. I'm just smearing this on. Okay, next I read Down the Rabbit Hole by Holly Madison, and if you don't know who Holly Madison is, she is one of Hugh Hefner's ex-girlfriends. She was a Playboy bunny. She was on, I should know this because I read the entire book, that show that they had, that reality show. What is the name of it? So I never thought I would get inside of a Playboy bunny's psyche, but I did. And I got to know a lot about Holly Madison. And how many stars did I give it? I may have given it 3 or 4 stars. She really do be spilling the tea on Hugh Hefner. If you want to hear some boiling hot tea about what it was like to live in the Playboy mansion, I would highly recommend. She was a really interesting person, and her whole kind of thing was don't boil me down to just being a Playboy bunny. I'm gonna take this BH Rainbow palette and use the reds. What's next? Okay, Toil and Trouble by Augustin Burroughs. So Augustin Burroughs is someone that I had heard about. He is a professional memoirist, and I think his first most beloved book was called Running with Scissors. This is also one I listened to on audiobook. Actually, all 3 of these ones I mentioned I listened to on audiobook. And this is a memoir of his about how he says that he is a witch and what that means to him. And I was just really curious about somebody else's perspective. It wasn't really something that I knew like a lot about, so I wanted to learn somebody else's perspective. And my favorite part wasn't even the parts about that. It was more the parts about his everyday life. I liked hearing about his husband and his dogs. he just seems to be living the dream, and I really was interested in that. I also have the e.l.f. XJ Kissa palette here. I know I didn't give this like a glowing review, but it does have some reds in it, and I don't have like a lot of reds. I'm gonna use the shade Pepper from this palette. Then so I read a lot of Amazon authors that are like the $1 books because I like supporting independent authors, and then sometimes you can find some really good hidden gems and they're cheap. You know, judge me, but that is what I like to do. So I read Blade and Rose book 1 by Miranda Honfleur. This was a convoluted mess. It was like 600 and some pages. It did not need to be that long. I didn't want to read them. There's like 5 or 6 other books and I just didn't want to read them. And then I read The Secret Child by Caroline Mistral. I had never really read books like that before. I had never really been a mystery ass bitch. The first one was on sale on Audible and I was like, why not? And I read both of them, so that is something to consider. I just don't think it's my favorite genre, but they were pretty good. They had some interesting twists. I would say that if you're into the genre, maybe give it a try, but I don't really know how it stacks up in comparison to other books in the genre because I don't really read mystery very often or like detective books very often. I don't know, I just have wanted to try different genres because my main genres are like YA fantasy, high fantasy, and romance. Lots of romance. We're getting to the romance. I don't know, those books are pretty good. I think I gave them both 3 stars. They're not like my cup of tea, but they're not bad. Okay, this next one, I read something, and you're gonna see the cover of this and you're gonna be like, girl, what the fuck? And to that I would say, bitch, I don't know. I read Crown Princess Academy by AJ Flowers. I can't tell you why I did it, okay? It was a little stupid ass romp and I liked it. I didn't love it, but I liked it. I read it. Is it a book that looks like the cover was designed for 5-year-old Barbie princesses? Yes. Did I still read it? Yes. Get off my case about it. I don't know. I just wanted to see a girl become a princess because maybe that's something that I have repressed. Leave me alone. I don't think I've ever used this MAC pigment. This is Shine Time. Okay, what else do we have? Four Dead Queens by Astrid Schulte. This, I'm spraying my brush to make that a little bit more malleable. That book kind of got me out of a reading rut. I think I was in a rut and I hadn't really been reading. There was a lot of intrigue. There were some great twists in that book. It was about 4 queens of this like futuristic society and they all end up dead, and it's about a girl that is trying to figure out why, and she ends up at the center of it. It was a really good book. It had some romance in it, but really what made it was all the different perspectives that you got. There was just a lot that I didn't expect that happened in the book. I gave it 5 stars and then I recommended it to my mother-in-law because I was like, read this. So, Crescent City by Sarah J. Maas. If you watched my Get to Know Me video, then you know that I'm a big fan of Sarah J. Maas, and when a new book of hers came out, I was ready, and let me tell you, it's a little bit info dumpy. It's like 800 pages, and there is a lot of kind of overly detailed world building, I would say. I remember I was like half asleep reading the first 100 pages or so because it was just so much like, and then this person is in this house, and then this person is in this house, and this house belongs to this type of magic, and this magic belongs to this, and it just was a lot. I'm trying to find my eyeliner, and at first I was like, Sarah, is this what we're doing? But then we got into it and it turns out it's about this girl named Bryce Quinlan and an angel named Hunt Athalar. I think that's how you pronounce it. If I'm pronouncing it wrong, then sue me. I will say, me and my cousin Timmery have a theory that Sarah J. Maas is very into wings because all of her male protagonists have wings of some kind. So I don't know if she's making her husband wear wings in the bedroom. She very well might be, and I said what I said and I don't take it back. The tension between the 2 main characters, this was like an enemies to lovers sort of thing, I really enjoyed, and it left me wanting more. And Bryce was kind of an annoying ass bitch at first, but she grew on me. She grew on me, and then I ended up loving the book and I gave it 5 stars. I sound like I'm very willy-nilly with the stars. I think I've become more stingy with the stars since the beginning of the year, but I did genuinely love this book and I'm excited for whenever the second one comes out. It is a beast. Like I said, it's like 800 pages, but it is good. Okay, An Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson. I read Sorcery of Thorns in 2019 and really liked it by Margaret Rogerson. She's just a sweet little YA writer. Her books aren't too heavy, they're easy reads, and I liked this book. It wasn't my absolute favorite. It was about a painter named Isabel and a fae, I think he was a prince or a king, named Rook, and it was about their romance and two worlds kind of colliding. It was just a sweet book, nothing too serious. Oh, I forgot my eyelash curler doesn't exist anymore because my cat threw up on it. I read the first two Throne of Glass books, also by Sarah J Maas. This is like a classic series by her that a lot of people love. I only read the first two. I bought the third one and then never read it. It's in typical Sarah J Maas style. We've got some romance, we've got a lot of gory action, and we've got the fae. I read a lot of books with the fae in it, and if you're not familiar with the fae, like I love to say, Google it. These weren't my favorite Sarah J Maas books. I like her other stories better, and I'm just not motivated to read 8 books. It's about an assassin named Selena, and that is a good premise, but she was also very heavy-handed. I feel like she was like, I'm the best assassin in the whole world, and then it was kind of one of those like where she told it but didn't really show it, because you would be like, okay, but she's making a lot of dumb decisions. That's how I felt about the first two. I don't know if I'll read the third one, so please don't spoil it for me. I may not, I don't know. Okay, Secondhand Curses. This was an Audible exclusive. I think it's by Drew Hayes. This was just a little fairy tale retelling I listened to on Audible. I got it for cheap, but I didn't really. It was about like the romps of some dodgy fairy tale bandits and ne'er-do-wells. And I like fairy tale retelling, so I tried it, but it just wasn't really for me. It wasn't anything to write home about. I gave it 3 stars because 2 stars felt unfair, but I wouldn't read the follow-up book. Okay, From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. Okay, girl. I love this book. This is one I read during quarantine. It was like 600 pages. It has twists and turns. It has some excellent romance. I was very into the romance in this book. That was really my favorite part. Hawk and Poppy are a great romantic arc. It's kind of the forbidden love trope, I would say. It's set in a fantasy world where Poppy is something called the Maiden, so she's like this god-honored woman and she is like off limits, but the guard doesn't really care for that because there's a lot of sexual tension. So, you know, I loved this book, and I read the second one, which we're going to talk about later on the list. I've only gotten my eyes done, and it has been 23 minutes. So I'm going to slap on some foundation, and I'm going to try to go a little faster. Burn, Blaze, Ashes, and Embers, the Dark and You series by Suzanne Wright. I read 4 of the 5. The 5th one was about different characters. These books were, and I'm telling on myself by doing these videos, there was a lot of sex in these books. So if you don't like sex in books, don't read these. Her writing style was very repetitive, but I liked reading these during quarantine because they were just easy and familiar, and you knew exactly what you were gonna get with each book. Plot was pretty predictable, the twists and turns were pretty mild, and they were kind of just comforting to read. I knew what track she was on, I knew what she was getting at, I knew that there was gonna be a happy ending, I knew that it was all gonna work out in the end, and that's kind of what I needed during quarantine. I read 4 of these back to back to back. I know that some of the people watching this aren't readers and are gonna listen to me talk about this and be like, this girl is really telling on herself right now, but you know what? Y'all can back up off me. Well Met by Jen DeLuca. I usually read romances that are like paranormal romances or fantasy romances, but this was a modern romance that took place at a Renaissance fair, and I think I gave it 5 stars, but I'd probably give it 4 stars because it just didn't stick with me the way a 5-star book does. I'd probably change that rating, but it was very good. It was very cute. It was about Simon and I think her name was Emily, a cute little nerdy school teacher that runs a Renaissance fair and has a tragic past, and a girl trying to get over her ex-boyfriend and find herself. So they meet at a Renaissance fair. It's very cute, happy ending. I liked it. It was just a good romance. Next is The Hating Game by Sally Thorne, and I have a person in my life who adores The Hating Game, and I really liked it too. I did give this 5 stars and it did deserve it. It's an enemies to lovers office romance. It's just so good. Tension between the characters is excellent. I like the characters themselves, Josh and Lucy. They were very endearing characters. They were well developed. There's so many cute little things in it. I think it's gonna be a Netflix rom-com, and it definitely has Netflix rom-com vibes. I really enjoyed this book. Vicious by LJ Shen. I gave this 2 stars. This is when I started to get really kind of stingier with my stars because I was like, Chandler Ainsley, who is a booktuber, recommended this book and I was like, okay Chandler, let's try it. I read it in one night and I kept waiting for it to get better, but this is just about a guy whose nickname is literally Vicious, and the girl he's bullied since like high school, and how he loves her, and the only reason he bullied her was because he liked her and he didn't know what to do with that feeling. And I was like, that's how men are in real life. We don't need that in fiction too, bitch. Absolutely not, LJ Shen. Absolutely not. And it was just like a, not even enemies to lovers. It was like enemies to 2 dipshits sleep together. Yeah, 2 stars. Oh my god, I've got black smudged on my face. Okay, Court of Ruins. This has, by Jenna Wolfhard, this has the worst cover of all time. This cover is absolute bullshittery. Like, it's just such a bad wig. And this was also about the Fae. It was like a court intrigue sort of situation. It was pretty forgettable. I didn't read the second one. Okay, Ali Wong, Dear Girls. This was Ali Wong's memoir that I read with my cousin Timmery and my friend Megan, and then we talked about it. We were kind of starting a book club and then we sort of faded out on the book club. This was good. I liked learning about Ali Wong. It was very funny. She was very endearing. Ali Wong is a comedian, if you don't know. I liked learning about her falling in love with her husband and about her culture and all sorts of stuff. It was very enlightening for me and I really enjoyed the book. It was a fun little read. I listened to it on audiobook. I don't remember how many stars I gave it because I can't see, but it was good. Okay, Captured and Renegade by Erica Stevens. This is a 5-book series with like short books. I only read the first 2. I gave them 2 stars and 1 star because these books were absolute shit. This is an example of where reading a small author who self-published on Amazon went really wrong because, okay, I am writing a book and I will probably self-publish on Amazon one day, so I'm not knocking that. That is perfectly fine. You're trying to get yourself out there and get a following and get people to read your books. Hell yeah, you go girl. But this was like a vampire romance about a 1,000-year-old man-baby child kidnapping a literal teenager. She develops Stockholm Syndrome, which I've read books that have that in it and enjoyed them. Like a Beauty and the Beast trope, but you know, this was one done very poorly. It just, I'm gonna spoil this one because you shouldn't read it. She like ends up leaving him, but like she doesn't want to leave him, but she feels obligated to. I don't remember exactly what happened, but then he just goes on a killing spree. He's like, oh, my 17-year-old girlfriend left me. I'm gonna eat like 16,000 people. And I was like, I don't even remember his name because I don't want to remember his name because he was trash. So that is how I felt about that. I'm gonna put on a little bit more bronzer. I feel like I could use more, but I was just like, really, Erica, you're gonna put me through this? And I read the second one knowing the first one was bad because I was like, maybe it'll get better. Like, I purchased these books, like maybe they'll get, no girl, they don't get better. Dark King, Rising Queen, and Fallen King by C.N. Crawford. I also read one more by C.N. Crawford, but my Goodreads didn't register it. So I've maybe read 51 books this year, but my Goodreads doesn't register the one that I read. Dark King, which one was in what? I think Fallen King was the one that's a different series about like elves and shit. Rising Queen and Dark King, and then I think one more are in the same series, like the Sea Fae or something like that. I liked them. They were fun. They were fun little romances. She totally did a Sarah J. Maas, which I guess I'm spoiling this too. She totally did a Sarah J. Maas where she was like, this guy is the main character, and then it was like, never mind, there's a bad boy who's hotter and better, and he's the main character now. And he's morally gray, but we like him because he's sexy. And that is, this blush is just sticking to my face. I'm getting so worked up. And that is that on that. High Stakes and Bit the Jackpot by Erin McCarthy. I found these at the used bookstore. They were fun. They were cheesy. They were just cute little vampire romances. There was some kind of weird stuff in both of them. There was also sex in these books. There's sex in a lot of the books I read. I'm 25. I'm not gonna pretend like there's not, okay? Well, I'm 24, but I'm almost 25. I rounded up, but whatever. I'm not gonna pretend. They use some weird words for body parts in these books. I was not into it. We'll say that much. Angel's Blood, Archangel's Kiss, and Archangel's Consort by Nalini Singh. Nalini Singh is a popular romance and paranormal romance author. I'm trying to find a highlighter, sorry. Let me put this in my lap. And this is the first series I've read by her, the first and only series. They were okay. They were just a little dry. They're about I think she's a vampire hunter and an archangel. And the dynamic between the two main characters is just kind of weird. It's kind of like the guy character sort of had this attitude like, I am better than you, but I'm still gonna put my pee in your beat. I was okay with these books, but they weren't my favorite. I'm just really reading myself here. I'm really just letting you all into my stupid psyche. Okay, how many more books do we have? Oh my god, okay. I'm almost done with my makeup. We're gonna have to speed through these. The Lightning Conjurer by Rachel Renner. This was a book I would have liked when I was a teenager. It's a YA fantasy, sort of dystopian, about a girl with elemental powers. It was fine, but I didn't read the rest of the trio. Into the Light by Catherine Hastings. This was another vampire romance. If you can't tell, I like vampire romances. Sue me. This one was very cheesy. Very happy ending, everything worked out, but just a little too well. I didn't read the rest of that series either. It was okay. It was lighthearted and fun and fine. Feather by Olivia Wildstein. This book was... put on a red lipstick, mama. That book was hot and heavy. It was about an angel trying to earn her wings, and she ends up with a bad boy, like a mafia boss type of guy. It was good. I liked it. That's it for the makeup. So we're gonna speed through the rest of these books. Riot House by Callie Hart. There's some sus stuff in this series. It's kind of a bully romance, which surprisingly is a genre. Why do we as women hate ourselves? I don't know. Why am I in that group? I don't know, but I am, and I said it, and I said it. I actually liked this book. It ended up being better. At the beginning, I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. I don't know about this. But then in the end, I was kind of like, Ren, the main guy character, kind of grew on me. I liked it. Rush by Maya Banks. Okay, this is in the 50 Shades of Grey sort of family. I've never read 50 Shades of Grey. This book was kind of similar to that, and it was terrible. There's some real weird sus stuff that happens in this book, and I gave it 1 star because I was like, Maya, how dare you put this out here? How dare you do this to me, Maya? I don't want to read about your weird issues that you have, clearly. Okay, Maya? No. Okay, I read Midnight Sun by Stephanie Meyer. I did that for 13-year-old me. I said, pour one out for you, 13-year-old me. I did that for me. It was 600 pages of horny, murderous Edward. That is what I've heard other people say, and that is the best way to put it. Was it a little hard to get through, and did Stephanie Meyer describe a car chase gear shift by gear shift for like 10 pages? Yes, mama, she did. The Cold is in Her Bones by Petronelle von Arsdale. This was a really different read for me. No romance, just fiction. It was kind of a Medusa retelling. It was short. It was just like 200 pages. I was gonna read it in between some longer books just to get another book in for the year. And she actually had some really beautiful prose, some really poignant thoughts on womanhood. I like how I immediately just went from Midnight Sun to like, she had some poignant thoughts on being a woman. You know, you gotta diversify your portfolio, and that's what I'm doing. Yeah, this was a really good book, and it was actually really different for me, and I enjoyed it. It had some really quotable stuff. Kingdom of Flesh and Fire. This is the second in the Blood and Ash, which is what our makeup is themed after today, series by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. The tension, the romance, the plot. It's probably cheesy, but I love cheesy things, and I loved it, and it was good. Ruined King, C.N. Crawford. Jesus Feminist. I'm on here fully talking about like all of the nasty romance that I've read, and then I'm like, Jesus Feminist by Sarah Bessey. I wanted to see her thoughts on biblical womanhood and how they apply to the modern woman. It was okay. Trixie and Katya's Guide to Modern Womanhood. Now this is what I needed to know about womanhood. They gave tips on makeup, hair, skin. They gave tips on everything. They are the 2 women that own the year, and I love them. The Shadow One by Lori Forrest. This is the 3rd book in the Black Witch series, which is one of my favorite series of like 2019, 2018. And I just couldn't work up to reading it. I had it on my shelf, so I finally just used an Audible credit and listened to it on Audible. It was good. It went a different direction. It's like there's this whole, it's like fairy tale genocide. It's a lot. Like, look it up. It's so much, but I actually liked that direction, and I didn't expect to like that direction, and then I was like all in my feelings about it. Maybe a little bit convoluted, but a very good fantasy series. The Cruel Prince series by Holly Black. So The Cruel Prince The Wicked King, Queen of Nothing. That's how I felt about them. Cruel Prince was okay, Wicked King was good, Queen of Nothing was great. This also had to do with the Fae, but the main reason I liked these books was because of Jude Duarte, the main character. She was so flawed and so realistic, and she just really leapt right off the page, and I really appreciated a complex female character that was more than the sum of her parts, so to speak. A Touch of Darkness by Scarlett St. Clair. I talked about this in my other Get Ready With Me video. This book was good, but not great. It kind of got me out of a rut, so I thank it for its service. It was a Hades and Persephone retelling. Probably wasn't the best version of a Hades and Persephone retelling that I could have possibly picked, but it was fun. I liked it. I tried to read the second one, didn't really go well. I quit. I don't really have time to read books I don't like, unless it's Vicious by LJ Chen, in which case I had all the time in the world. And finally, Burn For Me by Alona Andrews. Okay, Alona, I have some thoughts. This is the book I finished today. I liked the ending, but okay, look at this cover and look at the title. Do you not expect that this is going to be a cheesy romance? That's what I thought I was getting, Alona. But no, this was like a very detailed world building book about a private investigator named Nevada Baylor and her working with this very powerful man in a world where people have magic and they breed and get married based on who has the most powerful magic, and it's this whole world building. And I liked the world building, but look at this cover. I thought I was in for, you know what I thought I was in for based on this cover. You know, we all know, we been knew, but that wasn't what it was. But I've heard the second and third books, I think if there's a third one, are better. So I am gonna read them and squeeze in a few more than 50 books this year. Okay, so that was a rapid fire speed round there at the end. But this has been me doing my makeup kind of like the Blood and Ash cover and talking about all 50 books that I read this year. If you like me, hopefully, maybe, please hit subscribe. If you like makeup content blended with other kinds of content like comedy, mental health, books, squishmallows, all sorts of stuff, then please hit subscribe, comment, like, let me know what books you read this year. Did you read any of these? Did you like them? How many stars did you give them? Do you like me talking really, really fast? Girl, let me know. Let me know. This has been my video. Bye, Mom.